The slap landed like a gunshot. 1 second the cafe was full of the usual Saturday morning noise, espresso machines, hissing silverware, clinking a dozen overlapping conversations. The next second every single sound stopped. Victoria Stanton's palm had connected with the left side of Marcus Jackson's face so hard that the people nearest to them actually flinched. A woman at the counter dropped her cup. A child at the window table went completely still. Marcus didn't move. He stood there, his daughter pressed against his chest, one large hand curved around the back of her head as if shielding her from something far worse than a slap. He didn't stagger. He didn't raise his voice. He simply turned his head back slowly, deliberately, and looked at Victoria with eyes so cold and so empty of surprise that several people later said it was the most frightening thing they had ever seen. Then Victoria's bodyguard stepped forward to do his job. He got within 3 feet of Marcus, looked at the scar running down the left side of his face, and stopped dead. The color drained out of him completely. He took 1 step back. If you're new here, stick around. Stories like this one are exactly what this channel is about. Hit subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. Marcus Jackson woke up at 6:15 every Saturday morning without an alarm. It wasn't a habit he had chosen so much as one his body had refused to let go of 15 years out of the army, and he still couldn't sleep past dawn. He didn't fight it anymore. He made coffee, sat at the kitchen table in the quiet, and listened to the particular stillness of the apartment before the rest of the world caught up. By 7 o'clock, Ava was awake. He always knew the exact moment she crossed from sleep into waking because the entire apartment shifted, a small 7-year-old seismic event that announced itself through the sound of feet hitting the floor, a drawer being opened and shut 3 times, and then the appearance of his daughter in the kitchen doorway wearing mismatched socks and an expression of complete seriousness. "Is it a park day?" she asked the same way she asked every Saturday. "It's a park day," he said the same way he answered every Saturday. She allowed herself exactly 1 second of visible excitement before turning back toward her room to get dressed. Marcus watched her go and felt the kind of quiet happiness that had no name, the kind that didn't announce itself, that simply sat in your chest and stayed there. He was not a complicated man to look at. Tall, broad-shouldered, somewhere in his early 40s with close-cropped hair and a face that had been weathered rather than aged. He wore a plain gray t-shirt and dark jeans. He owned nothing that cost more than it needed to. He drove a used truck, lived in a 2-bedroom apartment in a decent part of the city, and worked 3 days a week doing logistics consulting for a mid-sized shipping company, enough to keep the lights on, enough to be home when Ava needed him. The scar ran from his left temple down along the curve of his jaw, a long pale ridge of healed tissue that pulled slightly at the corner of his eye when he smiled. People noticed it. They always did. Some asked, most didn't. He never explained it to anyone. And he had learned long ago that the silence itself was enough to make people stop asking. He never talked about where it came from. He never talked about a lot of things. By 8:30, they were walking through the door of a cafe called Groundwork on the corner of 5th and Meridian, their